Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. Today what we're going to look at is how to put the waste plumbing onto the basin. Okay, let's go. So before we get going today, what I'd like to do is give a shout out to two of possibly the youngest subscribers that I've got so far, Max and Harry, who are twin brothers aged 7. So thanks for joining, guys. Hope you enjoy the content. Keep watching, keep following. Hopefully you'll learn something and become, as your dad said, engineers in the future, so that's great. Also, big shout out to everyone else who's taken time to subscribe to the channel. We're up to 468 subscribers at the moment, which is absolutely amazing. But if we could just get a little push just to get to the first milestone of 500, that would be awesome. So if you're watching today and you haven't subscribed, just give us a quick subscribe, that'd be awesome. So last time around, what we looked at was how to connect that to the bottom of your basin. Today, what we're going to be looking at is taking the pipework out that and off. So when we're looking at pipe fittings for waste, there's generally 3 main ones that we have. There is compression, which unscrews, the pipe pushes in, and then the nut tightens back up. We have solvent weld. Solvent weld, where you put a bead of glue around, you push the pipe into the fitting and it goes off. Or you have a push fit fitting, which I haven't got, but it looks like this. Pipe generally comes in 2 sizes, 32mm, which would be 1.25 inches, or 40mm, which would be 1.5 inches. So they kind of look a bit like that. So they're just for the size comparison of the two. And then just to compare the sizes again, that is a 32mm elbow, that's a 40mm elbow. So the 3 types of fittings probably have place in every single job, but I would put my bottom dollar on that most plumbers would like to use solvent weld, because you glue it and you forget about it. But I just want to quickly look at the compression one, how that works. So that's your compression fitting. Unscrew it and there will be a little ring and a tapered washer. So there's the ring, there's the tapered washer, exactly like the trap. So the pipe sits inside that ring there, like that. You have to put the nut on the pipe, put the ring on the pipe, put the tapered washer on so that the taper is facing into the fitting that it's going into. Okay, you see that there? So that pipe is going to slide into there. That ring slide down that to the washer, sorry, and then you tighten it up. And that is good to go. As I said, I haven't got an example of a push fit fitting, but essentially it's going to look like that. There's going to be a rubber ring inside it. You just push your pipe in. So as I've said, I prefer to use solvent weld where possible. Obviously, you're going to have compression because you've got the compression on the trap. But this is an example where we've got compression, we've got solvent weld, and we've also got push fit. How this hasn't leaked over the years, I don't know. There we go. So there's no hard or fast rules when it comes to plumbing this in. So this is the bottom of the basin where we put the waste in. Your pipe could come out of the wall there. It could come out of the wall towards the bottom. It could come out of the floor, or it could run along the wall. Or it could go inside a stud wall like we have here. So before we get into the nitty gritty of actually cutting pipe and sticking it into the trap and doing some solvent welding, we need to think about how we're actually going to cut the pipe. There's 3 main ways that you can cut the pipe. One is with some slice like this. Be very careful with this one, guys. This is ultra sharp. So if we want to cut it on that line, put it in. That's the first one. Very quick, very easy. The second one is with something called a pipe slice like this. This one's made by Ox. So you take the blade protector out. You basically look for your mark. So if you actually look, there is an arrow on there which tells you which way to point it. So you just squeeze tight and just turn the pipe. A few turns. And there you go. That's a nice. Look, there's a tiny little blade inside. That's what does the cutting. They do go quite blunt very quickly, but they're very good. The slight problem with it is if you're not careful, it can actually track. So rather than doing a complete circle, it'll start to spiral down. So just be careful of that one. And then the third one is probably the easiest one if you're not going to be doing a lot of plumbing, is your old hacksaw. The only snag with the hacksaw is it makes a bit of a mess. So if we try to cut it on that line there, so as you can see, there's loads of burrs inside. So Monument have made this little deburring tool. So 32mm pipe, just stick it inside. And tidies the pipe up a bit better.
So as I've said, in the ideal world, we should be trying to use these swept bends instead of these knuckles, just because the water travels a little bit smoother through them. So what we're going to try and aim to do is we're going to run the trap straight into that and down. So on your fitting, this piece here is known as the socket, so your pipe theoretically sits right into the end there, and your pipe will fit there. So what you're going to have to try and do is with your tape measure, measure from the back of the socket to the point on the trap. So we're probably looking at about 9 centimeters for me, inch wise probably 3.5 inches maybe.
So on your pipe, you measure the 9 centimeters down, it's about there. Your method of cutting, so we'll go with this one. So try and line up the center of the arrow. There's a join all the way through the cutter. Line that line up with the line that you've made. Squeeze tight and turn the cutting. There we go. It's a relatively nice cut, but I still will just run this around just to get a nice edge on it. Last thing you want to do is to nick the black O-ring that's in there.
So let's take this apart. So we're going to have the nut, the O-ring and the washer. Sometimes this can be a little bit tight and a bit tight, just hard to get down. So a little bit of spit on your fingers, lube the pipe up, and then it'll slide down a bit easier. So then we put the ring on, the blue ring, there we go, and then the nut. So push it all the way into the pipe, into the trap, sorry. Slide the washer on, put the ring down. Tighten that up. Then get your fitting, push that on, and so it's a little bit too big, so trim a little bit off. That was that tracking I was talking about. See there, it's gone around and back to there. Try again. Right, so that fits nicely now. So we're now going to need to run a piece of pipe from around here down to the floor, but we need to obviously measure to the bottom of that piece here. So if you rest that just off the floor, maybe 10 mil or so, and then measure the distance between the two. Look about 18 inches or 46 centimeters.
So this is the piece that's going to come out of the trap and straight into the swept 90. So with the cleaning fluid, just knock the excess off, just run a quick bead around that. Because it's solvent, it'll dry quite quickly.
Once it's dry, get some glue on the brush and just put it all the way around. Put a lot on, obviously not a huge amount, but you know, put a good amount on. Once you're happy with that, get your fitting, push it on a slight angle to what you want, and then you just turn it slightly to the angle that you need it to be at. That looks relatively straight. Quick cloth just to wipe off the excess glue around the back of it. And there you go, that's how you solvent weld. I'm not gonna solvent weld the whole thing up, purely because I don't want to waste all the fittings, and it's, you know, it's just going to be thrown away. So yeah, there we go. Once you're happy that your pipe work's done, it's all glued up nice and you're giving it time to go off, you're only talking about 5-10 minutes. Whack a level on just to make sure it's nice and straight, and then put a clip on it, something like that. And then from there, you're going to need your next piece putting in to run along. You don't want that pipe to be flat. You want it to have a slight fall. So maybe a 1 in 40 would be a nice little drop to have. So for every 40 centimeters you go along, maybe a 1 centimeter drop. That's the trap with 2 swept 90s clipped onto the wall. And then I've stuck a long piece of pipe just to get it outside, just so we can test it. There we go.
So in my mind, I take what my...
Just one thing to note, if we're going to go by the UK guidelines, they recommend about 1.7 meters of 32mm pipe, which would be around there. Then I would be looking to cut it, put the bigger fitting on with the reducer inside, so we can then step it up to the 40mm from there.
So that's the basin plumbed in. It's going to take the wastewater out of the basin and away. We've looked at 3 types of fitting. So we looked at the compression, we looked at push fit, and we looked at solvent weld. We looked at the 3 types of cutting. We looked at the snip type, the pipe slice, and also with the hacksaw. Just remember to burr that bit off. That's all for today, guys. Like to say thank you for joining, for watching. Remember to subscribe. If you've enjoyed today's video, give us a thumbs up because it really helps. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.